Welcome to Expansion Theory. I played my last game of Monopoly when I was a little younger. Monopoly is the board game that broke me for board games. It was just cliche, typical American fare. Roll some dice, move around a board, move around some fake money. Got tired of it, swore off board games for years and years. Well, one day my cousin calls me up and he says, "Come on over, let's go play a game." I didn't know what he was talking about. I thought he was talking about maybe a video game. He ends up putting this out. This is Settlers of Catan. It's a German game, and it ushered in a new era of board gaming. This is called the European-style board game. European-style board games, they tend to rely more on resource management and currency and wooden pieces that are hand-sculpted. It was really kind of neat. I had never seen a game like it before, so I gave it a chance. I'm really glad I did. Settlers of Catan renewed my faith in the world of board games. So, I'm going to show you a little expansion that I made for Settlers of Catan to make it a little more fun and a little more goofy, just to sort of give an homage to the game that brought me all back into it. So, Settlers of Catan starts by building the game world by placing these hex pieces randomly, then placing these numbers on top of them, also randomly. Players take turns rolling the dice. Whatever number the dice land on, find the corresponding number, and anyone who has a settlement on one of the corners of that hex gets a single resource card. Though if they have a city built, they get 2 resources. These are the resource cards. They are sheep, wood, ore, clay, and grain. These resources are used to build more roads that allow you to build more settlements worth 1 point, which in turn lets you build them up to cities worth 2 points and double resources. Or you can spend resources to buy development cards, which give you a bunch of other ways to win. If anyone builds a road longer than 5 spaces, they get the longest road card for 2 points. If any other player builds roads longer than that, they get it. It can keep bouncing between players who are vying for it. Same with the largest army. Goes to the player with the most activated knight cards, which you find in the development deck. Whenever a player gets a total of 10 points between their properties and development cards, they win the game. However, there's one wee problem. This little bastard. Meet the robber. This guy lives to ruin your friggin' day. If anyone rolls a 7, the robber comes off his desert tile. First of all, if a player has more than 7 cards, they have to discard half. He takes half your shit. Second, the who rolled him gets to place him on any hex. Until he's moved again, that tile no longer produces resources. This is basically what a game of Catan looks like.
Okay, I'm going to buy a road.
Yeah.
And now I have the longest road. I'm going to play a knight, which gives me the largest army.
So, Catan is fun enough, and it has a bunch of expansions already, so why make a new one? Because of another game I just discovered last year called Pit. Let me introduce Pit now. Pit is a game designed in 1904 to simulate the stock market, and boy does it! It's fast-paced and silly, it's a ton of fun. I avoided it forever just because it seemed like more boring, old-timey board game fare, but it ended up being a real kick, especially at parties. This is how you play. In Pit, everybody gets 9 cards to start with. 2 players will get an extra 2 cards, the Bear and the Bull, which simulate market conditions. The point of the game is to scream and shout and basically be loud in body and try to trade goods with each other until someone has all 9 cards of the same type. You can trade 1 to 4 cards at a time, and there really are no rules except you must give out as many as you get. When you get them all, you shout corner, and the type of good you collected, then the round ends. You score your good, and the next round continues. The goods are worth different points when cornered. There's few different versions of Pit, but the one most commonly seen has oranges that are worth 50, soybeans that are worth 55, oats 60, sugar 65, corn 75, coffee 80, barley 85, and wheat for 100. There's also a bull and a bear. They're basically a high-risk hot potato. If you're caught with either when someone else corners a market, you lose 20 points for each one you hold. However, The bull counts as a wild card, and counts as the last commodity to corner. Basically, with the bull, you can have 8 cards of a type instead of 9, and you can still corner and gain a ton of points. Pit kind of plays like this.
Trade two.
Trade two.
Two.
Trading one.
Trading two.
Trading one. One.
Oh, trade one. Trade one. Trade one.
Trade one. Trading two.
Trade two.
Two. Two. Corner at me, bull market.
So how do these work together? Let me introduce my Catan and Pit expansion. Robber Barons! So in Catan, when you roll that bastard 7, normally a ton of bad crap happens. But in this expansion, things go a little differently. Pew! When a 7 is rolled, gameplay stops. Roll another die. If it's low, 1 to 3, there's a recession. If the roll is high, 4 to 6, there's a surplus. Everyone takes all the resources in their hands and puts them in a pile. For a recession, count up the number of resources of each type and write them down so everyone can see. Then shuffle and hand them out one by one to each player, starting with the one who rolled the 7. For a surplus, count up the resource types and the one that's highest, add the other resources until they match that number. Meaning if the highest amount in the pile is 7 sheep, then add cards until there are 7 wood, 7 ore, etc. After that's done, a game of pit starts. Call out trades and try to collect all of one resource. Once someone collects and corners the market on one good, the round ends. The person who cornered that market gets all the resources of that type, one of each other type from the supply, and then deals the rest of the pile out to the other players one at a time. Whenever a player corners a market, he gets a robber baron chip put off to the side, which basically works as a single steal. You can use it whenever, and you can only hold one at a time. Call out that you're robbing someone, call out a resource type, and if they have a resource of that type, they have to give it to you. It's a bastard way to play, but really, isn't that what Catan's all about? There can be only one! And at least a player benefits from a 7 roll, instead of some faceless CEO robber. So, that's how you play my expansion for Catan and Pit. Yeah, thank you to Anna and Andrea for helping me out on this episode. Hopefully they'll be able to help me out with episodes in the future. I will put up something on the blog so you guys can see the rules that I was using. I know I kind of shot through them a little quickly, so you can have a better reference with this stuff. But in general, just leave me comments. What you think I did good, what you think I did bad. Hate mail is always a good thing to receive. But yeah, hope you had fun, and hope to see you next time on Expansion Theory. And remember, stay critical! Keep rolling those 20s.